And we are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Apologies for the interruption. There was some technical difficulties on my side, but we're back. And we will be good to go for the rest of the session. And we are back in qualifying right now. As you may see, there are inter tires out on track right now. Inter conditions right now here at France. We were thinking possibly it was going to be full wets all qualifying long, but we are seeing some drivers. Well, let's see if it's actually wets all day long, because maybe some drivers are just contemplating a change here. But, well, no, somebody has gone faster on the inter. So it looks like that the inter tires are the way to go at the moment. So again, we are live right now. It's Division 1 action here at ISRL Esports for the French Grand Prix at the Circuit de Paul Ricard. We're here at full qualifying. It is at the end of Q1, and it is showdown right now, as inter tires seem to be the fastest tire at the moment to be on. As, Chappelle has a problem as he was coming out of the turn. I don't know how many drivers have the inters on. It looks like actually a majority of drivers have the inter tires on, except for a few. ISRL Knight right now, though, is going... Actually, it's very unfortunate. Knight eliminated out of qualifying is the only driver who is going to get eliminated in this session.
Yep, and that was really really unfortunate for him, as I'm seeing that was an invalidation, I believe, on the potentially near the end of the circuit. And just to touch upon this a little bit, I think as much as we're seeing a lot of drivers out on the intermediate tires, I think given the track conditions, it might be right around that changeover where either one of the wets or inters, at least at the time, maybe not so much now, as I was riding with Izat Kush, who was on the wets, and just had a moment on the exit of turn 10. So I think maybe now it is definitely intermediate tires, the tire to be on at the end, as you're seeing all of these times fall. The likes of Eklund going faster. It was Ferg who was faster, but now Josh too on the intermediate tires setting a quicker time. So definitely time speeding up here at the end of the session here of qualifying 1. But I think it's all for bragging rights here, as the top 15 has already been established, with, as you said, Knight being the only active driver in qualifying 1 to not make it through into qualifying 2. Rotation having that qualifying ban, and Carter deciding to not set a time very early on in the session when it was full wet monsoon conditions.
So nonetheless, that is it for qualifying. Josh 2 is the fastest man on track at the end of the session. Only one driver right now setting a time, and that is Du Will, as we'll see. But he's on the wet tires, so he's going to go back into the pit lane, and that is it. And it is now time for Q2. Unfortunately, Knight will not be moving on into the next session. He invalidated on that one lap he had to possibly improve and did not do so. So, unfortunate for ISRL Knight, he will not be finding himself in the running for the top 10. But nonetheless, let's move on to Q2. Here we go. We're going to go through the standing lineup right now, though, as we move on into the next session. Again, only one driver eliminated. Josh 2 is the fastest person on track. Chappelle in second. Eklund in third. Cyril Ferg in fourth. Fifth for total Ps. Sophion in sixth position. Seventh for Feral Fury. Jerome in eighth. Ninth for Izak Kush. ISRL Assassin is in the top 10. Cyril Duwill in 11th. 12th for Andon. Jamie in 13th. 14th is Krishna. 15th fastest was Yarno. And the drivers eliminated are Knight, Rotation, and Carter. Did not set a time either. Again, he did not have a qualifying ban, so I guess it just wasn't to be for Carter in this session. But here we go, moving on into the next qualifying session, and I presume we will be on inter tires for that session.
Yeah, I think it will be inter tires as well, at least from what I saw with the weather indicator, but we will find out in a moment. Now, I do want to give maybe a little bit of a hot take on Carter's decision to not set a time here in qualifying 1, as it does look like it's intermediate conditions here into qualifying 2. But I think given from what I've seen here in the Division 3 race, in the Division 2 race as well, there have been incidents in lap 1, turn 1 in both of these races so far today even with the dry starts. So maybe Carter thinking ahead to the race, maybe starting at the back so he can hopefully not get caught up into any potential incidents on the first lap, on those first few corners, and gain a few positions just from that alone, just avoiding the kerfuffle of starting mid-pack. But I think time will tell with that, as for us here, being on the pit wall, or being in the commentator's booth, excuse me, we have no idea what's going on in that Mercedes garage and what the strategy actually is for Carter and the Mercedes team.
I'd like to make the point that if that is the strategy, I'm just going to be honest, never been a proponent of that mindset. Like, oh, well, I just want qualifying because something's going to happen at the start of the race. You always got to be prepared. What if nothing happens? Then you've taken a very bold call that just hasn't worked out. So while I understand, France especially, very tight turn one, a lot can happen. You never know when drivers are just all of a sudden going to start to behave on lap number one. Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes, and you don't want to be the driver that decided not to qualify as quick as you possibly could. So I'm not a huge proponent of that strategy, though I hear it a lot, but I'm not going to assume that's what Carter did. He may just not have felt very confident in these conditions, but nonetheless, we will move on. It is Q2 action, so 15 minutes of Q2 action right now, 13 minutes about and counting, as Andon was the first driver out on track and is going to be the first driver to set a time. And as you said, intermediate tire conditions at the moment. The rain has subsided quite significantly, and we're going to be on for some much faster times here, possibly even etching into the 140s. It will be difficult, but we definitely have the talent on this roster to do so. Andon is coming across the line, and here we go. Coming into turn one, it's a very slippery turns 1 and 2, especially in the wets. We'll see how he handles it this particular lap, and he does so pretty successfully. The last time he went around there, he almost lost the back end of the car, and he's coming towards the end of the first sector. Still valid, though he almost cut the track in that particular turn. Coming into turn 5, look at all these turns. They're all labeled. It's great because I never know any of the numbers ever for the turns. But it's nice to have them all labeled here at France. I hope nobody kills any of the boards, but I'm sure I'll be unfortunately disappointed at one point or another in the session. But Andon is fastest in the first sector, as you might imagine, being that he was the first man to enter into that sector and finish it. And I will continue on a few for the moment, but we are just trying to see who, Andon will be the first driver to set a time. Will currently on a lap as well. Drivers not on a lap, so Fionn Eklund, Jerome Vasseur, and Ferro Fury, but Ferro Fury actually just started his lap. So the only drivers in the pit lane are Chappelle and Passassin. And I'm wondering, is that an inkling of possible drying conditions, given they haven't come out on track yet? Definitely drivers that are going to look into making it to the top 10. Are we possibly going to expect some dry weather? I'm not too sure. Might just be speculation on my part. Andon, though, comes out of the hairpin. He's about to finish up his lap. Let's see what the time's going to be from the Racing Point driver. Comes across the line, and it is going to be a 140.7. So, as I said, getting into the 140s, not too difficult, as immediately on the inter tires we make it there. 140.7 is the time to beat at the moment. Let's see how the drivers do so. Josh 2 almost makes it into the 139, so a very nice time from him as he goes fastest on track at the moment, as I'm going to ride on board of CRL Ferg, who is about to finish up a lap pretty soon, actually. Isaac Kush, fastest, 139.3, so the times are really starting to fly right now, as it seems every driver who's come across the line has gone faster in some way or another. Andon has moved down to third, Krishna in fourth position, Duell in fifth, sixth for Yarno. Will his teammate go faster? Cyril Ferg has gone second fastest with a 139.7, a mega lap time from the Ferrari driver, puts himself into the top 10, well into the top 10. That should be a safe time, as long as it stays interconditions. But it's still a little interesting seeing Chappelle. Well, actually, Chappelle is now coming out on track, and Passassin as well has begun his run.
Yeah, and excuse me for earlier. I picked. I'll be honest. I picked the worst possible time to take a sip of water. If I'm being. Oh no, that's as I was going to make a point. That's Josh 2 out of the qualifying 2 session.
And
so
he's crashed in that. He crashed in that infamous turn 10 location. Again, we've been talking about that all race long. That infamous left-hand turn of that right-hand turn of turn 10. Very easy to lose the car there, and he lost it, and he's out. So that's it for Josh 2. Even if he qualifies in 10th, he's not going to be there.
Yep, and that's really not what Josh 2 was hoping for, as he has shown time and time again, and even here at Circuit Paul Ricard, that he has the pace to make it through into the top 10 and fight for the possible provisional P1 start, and at least get a strong showing here in the qualifying, but will be forced to start, I believe, in 10th or worse, depending on where the times end up falling at the end of qualifying too.
I believe as long as everybody stays fine, he would just drop down the 15th. I believe actually, because if you crash and you don't finish, like it's different if you retire, but if you crash, then it drops you down.
Okay. I wasn't 100% sure because I do see him, at least as of now, in that P10 spot. But I do know for a fact that even if you do make it through in that P10 or let's say that P15 in qualifying 1, you still don't get to move on into the next session, and it just starts the order with, let's say in a case like this, it would just start the top 10 shootout as a top 9 shootout, so to say.
Okay, so we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see exactly what happened. But nonetheless, right now, 12 drivers have set times. Passassin and Chapelot are both on timed laps right now. Passassin is coming through Sector 1. Chapelot a little faster on in the session right there. He's got Jerome Vasseur ahead of him. Actually, I believe both of them now teammates in the FRL team. I did see Jerome having that name on the back end. I was saying the back end coming out there. Jerome giving him a little bit of slipstream. I don't know if he gave him slipstream or even held him up a little bit, because that was very, very close between those two. As Chapelot is coming through the second sector. He was fastest in the first sector. We'll see if he continues on that trend as he's coming towards turn number 10. It is fastest in the second sector, so Chapelot is on a pretty nice lap right now. Can he improve ahead of Isaac Kush, who right now has a 139 flat just about? As Chappelle coming into the third sector, back on the power early in that little dip right there of turn number 11. Now coming to turn 12 again, making sure not to clip the inside curb there. Can easily spin the car out. Ooh, a little bit of a mounting of the curb right there unsettled the car, but he's coming into the penultimate turn right now. Hard to stop the car there. Has a bit of a lockup into the hairpin of the final turn here at Paul Ricard. Here back on the power now is Efrael Chappelle in the Alfa Romeo, looking to make it onto provisional P1 here in Q2. Comes across the line, only P2, and he's slower by about 1/10 of a second. And Chappelle lost it a bit in the third sector right there. Again, he had a little bit of a moment in the penultimate turn, and he also mounted the curb towards the penultimate turn, so that may have been what cost him possibly making it onto provisional P1 here in Q2, but surely it will be a safe time to make it into the next session.
Oh, I would definitely say so, given the 139. It is a low 139s. Now, I was riding on board with the driver who was right behind Passassin, who just now, on his second time around, through the exit of, I don't know the turn numbers, turn 8, I believe, turn 7, turn 8, had a big tank slapper with these intermediate conditions this time around, so I don't think would improve. But from what you were saying with Chapelelli's time, Passassin had a very similar lap, it seemed, almost following in Chapelelli's footsteps, but only good enough for a P4 for the McLaren driver. And I'll be honest, just looking at the second lap for Passassin, I don't think he's going to improve this time around, as he's been losing the back end a lot more here on this lap. But still, Isaac Kush breaking into the 138s. With his quickest time, I just noticed, albeit just into the 138s, but still the first driver to break in the 138 barrier with that 138.946. So Isat Kush in the AlphaTauri really showing a lot of pace here in these intermediate conditions here in the qualifying 2. So maybe a sign of things to come here, as he might be looking to bring that battle to Chapelelli for the win here come race time.
So Fionn looks to be the only person on a timed lap. Assassin did elect to pit after what was a messy hot lap right there. Let's see how Sophion does right now, as he is on a timed lap. So we'll see if the AlphaTauri driver can get himself up into the top 10. He's at Kush, of course, P1 at the moment provisionally. Can Sophion etch his way into the top 10? Maybe even kiss the top 5 right there. Cyril Ferg is just there at the moment, but he's there by a couple tenths of a second ahead of Duwil, so that definitely will have to be a good time from Sophion. But let's see how he handles the third sector now. He handled turn 10 pretty well, not too many problems there. Going through the dip, maybe could have cut the curb a little bit more, but it's looking stable, which is really what matters in these wet conditions. Hits the curb a little bit there, doesn't unsettle the car, so good on him. Now coming into the penultimate turn. And into the penultimate turn, oh, he has problems, and he's actually going to go into the pit lane. So he did not decide to finish that lap up, and it wouldn't have been fast enough anyway if he had continued on with it. So Sophion right now, only P12 at the moment, as Feral Fury has gone ahead of him. Josh 2 still sits P10, but Feral Fury is going to go on another lap. So we'll see how he handles it here. Jerome Vasseur only sitting in P13. Krishna, 14th fastest. Yarno is having problems here in qualifying 2, as he is down in 15th place, so not looking too good. As it stands right now, we would have only a top 9 if that is in fact the case, come the end of the session. Chappelle has decided to retire out of the session, so he believes that he is safe, and I believe so as well, as I think many would, with that 139.2 right now sitting in provisionally second position here in Q2. There's about 2.5 minutes left to go in the session, and we'll see if we get any other big improvements, any shakeups right now. Josh 2 sitting in that P10 spot. If it is the correct thought process, then yes, only a top 9 shootout at the moment.
Yep, but time will tell. I'm riding with Feral Fury right now, and as he's approaching the end of the sector, he is 1/10 of a second faster than the time he has on the board. When I do think to overtake Josh 2's time, he would need to find maybe just a little bit more, but it would be close. But of course, this third sector, as we've seen, is very notorious here to make or break a lap time, especially here in the intermediate time. So we'll have to see how Feral Fury can do. I'm not seeing any major issues with the lap. Up until now, going a little bit deep here in the penultimate corner. So maybe a slight little time loss for him here. But now he's going to head down this start-finish straight. And we will find out if Feral will improve. It's going to be close, and he does improve.
He does
and just
improve.
Barely ekes out the time of Josh 2. And that's a 140.107.
But I am noticing still Josh 2 sitting in P10 right there, so he still hasn't been knocked down to P11, so that's a little interesting, because Feral Fury was in the bottom 5. So is it just going to be a top 9, given that Josh 2 still sitting there in P10? Is there a bit of a glitch?
Josh 2's time was still quicker than the time previously, so he still stays there.
So Andon's going to come across the line.
In a net P10, so we'll see what Andon can do.
And
practically the
slower.
same time for Andon.
Slower by 1,000th of a second, and that's going to be a little nail biting, as Andon will go around again. As we've said before, inters and wet tires tend to work better as you work them in. They don't really work too well on the first lap, but fuel up the car a little bit. Cars on
there
low.
There we go. That was, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that was your own Vasseur putting himself up into P8, breaking into the 139s, and that does knock Josh 2 down into a P11 now, as his time does classify in 11th. So either way, at this point, we will have that top 10 shootout with 10 full drivers now, that your own Vasseur did put himself within the top 10.
So there you go. Top 10 right now in the shootout. As I was riding on board of Eklund, who looked to have gone about 100th of a second faster in the first sector. We'll see how he navigates the second sector as he's just coming out of that chicane, back on the power, coming up towards turn number 10. That's somebody ahead of him. Not too sure who that is. That's Andon, who gets out of the way justly. Now coming through turn 10, a make it or break it turn for some. That was definitely a little scary as he clipped the curb there and almost set the car around, but he kept it nice and stable, coming through the dip right there and coming towards now turn number 12. See how he handles this turn. Does not clip the curb, but maybe could have cut a little bit closer in, as we are now at the end of Q2. So Eklund right now sits P2. Will he go faster? As Isaac Kush has gone fastest on track at the end, a 138.8, and that is solidified himself in the first position here. As it looks like somebody went into the pit lane Eklund finishes P6. Sorry.
Oh no. As I was following along for the just further down the order to see if Feral Fury was going to be able to make it through into the top 10. All eyes were on Krishna, as the other drivers did make mistakes, but crucially, Krishna on the exit of, I believe that was turn 12 or 13, lost the car and crashed out of qualifying too. So I think Feral Fury, thankfully for him, is safe and will make it through into the top 10 shootout, albeit only just in that P10 position.
So that is it for qualifying here, and Isaac Kush has gone fastest in Q2 with a very nice time. There is Feral Fury sitting in 10th position. That solidifies his spot to move into Q3 for the top 10 shootout. Here's your top 10, Isaac Kush in P1 right there. Total Peace in second. Third for Passassin. Cyril Fergan, fourth. Fifth for Chapelelli. In sixth position is Eklund. It's Cyril Duell in seventh. Eighth for Jerome Vasseur. Ninth for Jamian. And it's 10th for Feral Fury. And the drivers eliminated from Q2, Josh 2, Andon, Cyril Krishna, Sophion, and VR46 Yarno, unfortunately not making it into the next session. It's 10 seconds just about until session start time. It's time for the top 10 shootout here in qualifying. It's going to be a good one, and we hope you stay tuned. You're watching live coverage of Divisions 1 World Championship in ISRL Esports. It's time just about for the French Grand Prix. We're here in qualifying around Circuit de Paul Ricard. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss when we go live or post a new video on the YouTube page. As we are here in Q3, 12 minutes for the top 10 shootout, and it is dry here in qualifying, so we are going to see some very fast times here. So remember, drivers will have free choice of tire, but it's time for Q3, and that means we get to be on whatever tire we want, and I suspect we're going to get some nice, sticky, soft tires coming out on track in just a few moments' time.
Yep, and looking at the tire choice, at least initially when loading into this qualifying 3 session, as far as the pit crew was concerned, for all 10 of these drivers, all opting for the soft tires. But I can see here, looking at the tire choice, some drivers are debating whether or not they want to put on a set of dry tires or put on a set of intermediate tires. We've seen it's been wet through the entirety of qualifying, so I think maybe some drivers are debating whether or not the tire is truly going to be, or sorry, not the tire, the track is truly going to be dry enough. But I think we will find out, as I'm seeing that's Feral Fury.
I'm only seeing one driver on Inters fitted right now.
Yeah, and it looks to be that's Ferg maybe putting an indication, but I'm riding on board with Feral Fury, and it looks as though the track is looking pretty dry here for qualifying 3. So I think from what I can see, it might definitely be time for those slick tires, and I think we will see the lap times we've grown accustomed to seeing more here for these Tier 1 drivers, probably breaking into the 128s, maybe even the 127s, I would think, here in qualifying 3, where drivers are just going to be pushing as hard as they can to try to get the best lap time possible
I hope they go a little faster than that, or else I deserve to be in in Division 1 with those times. But nonetheless, right as you said right there, so drivers are going out on the soft tire, so it is time for softs. I'm not sure why Cyril Ferg is still on the inter tires in the pit lane, unless he sees something we don't. Maybe there is rainfall approaching. And maybe he doesn't think drivers are going to get around in time for their laps. But I think at least Feral Fury will. It takes a lot longer for the track to get wet than it does to go back to dry. Because when the rain stops, it seems immediately to go back to a dry condition. There's Feral Fury's trying to warm up his tires, it looks like. But now he's about to come around and start a lap here. Back on the power, and here we go. Coming across the line here at Paul Ricard. Let's begin Q3 with just under 10 minutes now, going through 9 minutes into the session.
Yep, and came very close to Total Peas as Total Peas was leaving the pit lane on the entrance to turn 1, but thankfully a good awareness from the McLaren exiting the pit lane, seeing Feral Fury on a flying lap and doing a good job of just staying out of the way, just staying off the track and allowing the hot lap driver to continue on and get that lap in. But now
we're
like
seeing a bit of slipstream. Yep, some slipstream. Yeah. Jerome Vasseur giving his teammate Feral Fury the slip as he comes into the chicane very quickly, as he had to lock up the car a little bit. Oh, well, that's a little interesting. Jerome Vasseur cut a major portion of the track right there, and I know he is going to want to get the slipstream of his teammate. I don't know if stewards want to look at that or not, because that was a pretty blatant track cut right there.
Yep, caught that as well on the stream as I was riding with Feral Fury. Seeing your own Vasseur completely cutting the track. Now, of course, the rules do dictate that you are not allowed to cut the track for any reason. Albeit, I know, at least as far as drivers are concerned, unless there is really it makes or breaks with a position, I don't think drivers are really gonna rat other drivers out. So it does rely a little bit more on the all-seeing
eye. Feral Fury hits a 129.1 to start us off here, as Total Peas is coming out of the final turn to set a lap time. We'll see if the all-seeing eye makes a little report. Total Peas actually looks like he invalidated that lap because he's actually now on a flying lap right now. Jerome Vasseur is on a lap time. So we're going to see where's Feral Fury. Feral Fury on the back straight. Jerome Vasseur is way behind, so he's not getting any slipstream from his Haas teammate. It must feel a little hurtful. You just gave your teammate some slip, and Feral Fury's like, whatever, have fun with your lap time. Jerome Vasseur was probably not too happy about that one, as he was pretty nice to his teammate on that particular moment, and I don't think we're going to be seeing the same courtesy going forward.
Unless, another little thought, unless you're on the second, because drivers normally in qualifying tend to do 2 laps, so maybe we might see second time around Feral Fury helping your own Vasseur out.
We're in Q3 at the moment, so
Q3,
that's going to be difficult.
Excuse me.
Yeah. But we know what you meant.
Right. Yep,
Well, it doesn't matter because Jerome Vasseur just invalidated the lap, so it doesn't matter. Oh, well, no. So Jerome Vasseur just basically got screwed over by his Haas teammate as he goes into the pit lane. Total Peas seems to have been taking some interesting off-track excursions. I don't know if he was letting by a driver. He almost lost it into the wall right there, as he had a bit of a problem locking up their front tire right there. As they're trying to get some times, and look at that, the sun's starting to come out right now, as Du Will sees the heavens open as he starts his lap at the moment. We'll see if he can get onto pole position here today. Du Will, always a secret driver, it seems, always surprises me, to say the least. You never really expect it, but he definitely comes and delivers as many weeks as he can, and we'll see if he can deliver here today with possibly putting himself on pole. Isaac Kush has gone fastest in the first sector. Cyril Ferg has hit a 127.6 for the fastest time of the day. As Chappelle is still in the pit lane, Passassin is on a lap right now as well. And Jamian is actually about to finish up a lap. So let's ride on board with the Mercedes driver, always finding himself in the top 10. At least he tries to, and in this particular location, he has. We'll see if it can result in a good finish here today, as Jamian is about to come across the line, opening up that DRS flap. Let's see what the time is going to be. Jamian comes across the line and will go P4. But given there's only 4 times on the board, maybe that 129 not quite fast enough. Will he get dropped down? I believe so. By some of the other drivers on the grid here. Duwill comes out of the final turn. Let's see how the Red Bull driver has handled his lap. Coming across the line in the Aston Martin Red Bull racing car, still at B, as he goes second fastest. So it's a Ferrari on pole with a Red Bull on the front row of the grid, and that is split by a McLaren, and that is Passassin of a 127.8. So Ferg still fastest on track, still waiting. Oh, actually, Isaac Kush went into the pit lane, so the only driver right now who would be able to beat it would be Jamie, but I'm sure we'll see him in the pit lane soon. So a bit of a dead qualifying session so far, as about only half the grid has set lap times.
Yep, and I think with some of these other drivers, maybe just the first lap was more getting a feel for the slick tires, as of course the other 2 qualifying sessions were all on the wet weather tires. So maybe just getting a feel, getting them gripped in, and of course, as we've seen all throughout this weekend, track limits have been a bit of an issue for a lot of drivers.
Track limits stink. That's what I say.
There
track limits are bad.
You heard it here first.
Track limits stink.
Yep, and I do think the Division 1 drivers, I'll be honest, have to agree with you. As I'm going through, taking a look at these times, it looks as though track limits have been an issue for a lot of the drivers here in this qualifying session, in the wets and in the dries. I mean, already I'm riding with Chapelelli, who's on an outlap, to be fair, but has an invalidation here on the outlap. Now, whether that was just to save time or whether it was a legitimate invalidation is not to be seen, as I'll be honest, I didn't see it, but it is an invalidation nonetheless. But hopefully he can keep it clean, as down with less than 3 minutes to go, a lot of these drivers might want to get out on track sooner rather than later
Isaac
for their
Kush
final
still hasn't come out. Yeah, this is not... You're cutting it a little close, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get out on track. Chappelle is out on track. He's on an outlap. We'll see if he can go a little faster. Isaac Kush hasn't even come out of the pit lane yet, so it's interesting, cutting it very close, but they still have time to make it out, but they need to get a move on, as I am seeing some movement in the Mercedes garage. It looks like there's some movement in the AlphaTauri garage as well. A Red Bull comes out right there, and nope, still nothing from Isaac Kush. Where is the Alpha?
I think he is coming out now, from what I can see on the mini map.
I'm trying to look. There he is. He's actually leading the pack. So that a little clown move right there, but nonetheless, let's run on board of Chappelle, because he's on a lap right now. He's flying through the chicanes of Sector 1 and flinging it back into the double right turns right here, as he sets a fastest first sector. So Chapelelli looking to upset the Ferrari home Tifosi. If there is a home Tifosi here in the chat right now, say your name. If not, then you don't exist, I guess. But nonetheless, Chappelle is trying to see if he can put himself on pole position here today at Paul Ricard and bring a bit of Italian pride, a bit of different Italian pride, as he has gone fastest in the second sector. So Chapelelli looking to set a absolute flyer right now, coming into the third sector, coming now towards the dip there in turn number 11, and handles it beautifully out of the curb right there, coming in the turn 12, cutting it close, clips the curb a little bit, and ooh, the rear kind of snapped right there. I'm not too sure if that's going to cost him anything right now, but he's coming through the penultimate turn, now into the final turn, the hairpin, another lockup from Chapelelli, as now here we go, DRS activated, coming across the line, FRL Chappelle, what's the time going to be? It's going to be a 127.1, and it's going to be pole position provisionally for FRL Chapelelli, unless anybody has anything else to say about that one. And maybe Isaac Kush will, as he will now start his lap.
Yep, and I think a lot of these drivers here, as much as they did cut it close, I think they will all make it to the line in time to get their flying laps started. So it's gonna be definitely a sight to see here with the 10 seconds to go in this qualifying 3 sessions. So don't go anywhere, because the fun's just about to start here, as all drivers are on their flying laps now, when the track is at its quickest, when the drivers are on its quickest. Now the question is, who will take pole position? Is it going to be Schiaparelli, or is it going to be any one of these other drivers who are out on their flying laps?
Isaac Kush is flying through the chicane right there in Sector 2. Not a fastest Sector 1, though. Let's see if he can go fastest in the second sector. Coming towards the line right there. No, it is. Oh, it is. Yes, a fastest second sector for Isaac Kush. So he picked up a little bit of time right there. We'll see if the AlphaTauri driver can put himself on pole position here today at Paul Ricard. Coming into the dip of turn 11. Keeping it out of the line right there. That could be an invalidation. Ooh, he has problems there in turn 12. Has to really cut the car back in there, clipping the curb a little bit out of the exit, now coming into the penultimate turn, and again going in a bit deep, flicking it back into the hairpin. Another lockup right there. Isaac Kush, can he put himself on pole? Puts on the DRS, coming to the line. What's the time going to be from Isaac Kush? It is going to be, no, it is going to be second fastest, 127.2, and it's about a half of a hundredth of a second right there of getting onto provisional pole. Passassin goes third fastest, 0, Ferg down to 4th. Total P's has gone into the top 5. Knox Do Will out of the top 5, but it's ISRL Chappelle who has put himself on pole here in Paul Ricard for round number 4 of Division 1.
Yep, and what a strong showing that was from ISRL Chappelle, getting that lap in when it counted the most, and crucially getting that quickest lap in before the timer hit 0, contrarily to every other driver. I know Passassin maybe not as happy as he was hoping with his lap, as he was stuck right behind the Mercedes of Jamie 1. So I think potentially losing a little bit of time compared to what could have been for Passassin, at least on his final lap. And I think Isaac Kush came oh so close, but not close enough to knock Schiaparelli off that top step of the, I guess, the qualifying podium.
It's 52 hundredths of a second separating first and second, but it is ISRL Schiaparelli who puts himself on pole position. Isaac Kush second alongside him on the first row of the grid. The second row of the grid will consist of Passassin and Ferg. Total P's and Duel take the third row of the grid. Jerome Vasseur and Frail Fury take the fourth row of the grid, and in 9th and 10th on the fifth row of the grid is going to be Jamian and Eklund. That was full qualifying. That was particularly qualifying 3, and it's time for the French Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us live right now. It's Division 1 action here in ISRL Esports for the French Grand Prix, round number 4 of the championship. Again, if you're enjoying the stream, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a live action race or any videos posted on the YouTube channel. We thank all of our partners, IFEA, Jackson Protection Agency, and IMB Racewear, all of you who support ISRL Esports every single week and make it possible to hold all these events. And again, of course, all of our subscribers who enjoy all of our content, we appreciate every single one of you. It is without you. If we did not have you here, then we would not be able to continue on with ISRL Esports. So again, thank you everybody. Let's get set for this 50% race here at France. It's going to be a good one. I'm very excited. Again, let's see how ISRL Schiaparelli, can he win this race, capitalize the most, as Sweet Crown 19 is absent from this race. It's a big loss of points, nevertheless. Given the change in points that we instituted in the season 3, it's going to be here. Schiaparelli has picked up a qualifying ban because he has readied up early. Oh my goodness. Well, I think I just gave him some commentator's curse right there, because I've been talking him up a lot about how he has to capitalize, and he readies up early in the session, and that's an instant qualifying ban right there. The all-seeing eye has picked it up. Schiaparelli has readied up early, and whatever next round it is going to be for him, it's going to be a qualifying ban. Nonetheless, he gets away from that one red light, and let's go over the starting lineup for your French Grand Prix. 27 laps are going to behold the man on pole position, ISRL Esports. It's Isaac Kush that will line alongside him. Unbelievable how I'm speaking today. Let's bring up also the tire strategy right there. Well, actually, let's look at that predicted pit stop strategy. It's either medium to hard, as we said, for that one stop, or alternatively, like Krishna is deciding to do so, a soft medium. That is the two-stop strategy if you start on the soft tires, though it is going to be interesting to see if that soft tire run is exactly what does it. Nonetheless, we're moving on with the lineup. It's Bassassin in P3, Ferg in P4, 5th for total Ps, Do Will in 6th position, 7th for Jerome Vasseur, Feral Fury in 8th position, 9th position for Jamin. He starts on the hard compound tire. Interesting strategy there. We'll see if it works out for him. Eklund in P10, 11th for Josh 2, 12th for Andon, as there is Krishna in 13th, who starts on the soft. So, of course, he'll have a bundle of grip, but isn't going to be enough to make up enough positions for when he's going to have to make his pit stop, which will be a lot earlier than the rest of the pack. So, Fion starts on the hards in 14th, 15th for Jerome. Not Jerome, sir. It is Yarno, who starts 15th, 16th for Night Vapor Rotation with that qualifying ban, starts on the mediums in 17th, and last place is ISRL Carter on the mediums in 18th position. Again, as we said, 27 laps around the Circuit de Paul Ricard, and it is time to get ready for those 5 red lights for the start of the French Grand Prix. Again, my name is ISRL. You're joined in the commentary booth. 5 Fallen Monkeys are going to call every single lap of this race for you, hopefully without any technical difficulties this time.
Yep, I've got faith in the technicalities of it that we should be okay, but I'm knocking on wood just in case. As the drivers are lining up back on the grid, to get that race started. Now, I do think it's interesting with Krishna starting on the soft tires, having to do the two-stop, but we'll have to see if that's going to work out for him here as the race plays along. But, Ix, I'll leave it up to you, as it looks as though we've got the Carter who's finally lined up, and we should be ready for the 5 red lights in just a few moments.
And here we go. Engines revving up to 16,000 RPM, getting ready for those 5 red lights. It's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here at Paul Ricard. The lights are out, and away we go. The French Grand Prix is underway, and ISRL Esports gets away from pole position. It looks to be a good start as Isaac Kush is going to go alongside him, covering in the turn 1 is Chappelle, going through turn number 1. It looks to be pretty clean so far all the way, and it looks like a bit of a kerfuffle from the back. There is a spin, and it's Andon who's been spun around at the start, and he's had a massive problem there. No damage picked up on the racing point, but it is a spin, and that is unfortunate for him, and we do have a bit of an update right now through the leaderboard. It's showing Shapelelli back into the lead there, right there, as Isaac Kush is in 2nd position, past Sasson in 3rd, Total Peace in 4th position, Ferg is up to 5th, Do Will in 6th position, Feral Fury and Jerome Vasseur 7th and 8th with Krishna and Eklund. And look at this, 3 wide coming towards into the hairpin. It's a battle between the Haas's and the Renaults, and Eklund, who have been spun, and Eklund has been spun around, it looks like. Eklund now having pressure from Josh 2, and now looks to be Vapor Rotation, trying to make a move on the outside, coming into turn 10, and it is Josh 2, though, who is going to slot behind the Alfa Romeo driver, who's looking to make it past Eklund, and Jerome Vasseur looking on the inside right there of Feral Fury, possibly. The 2 Haas drivers pretty close together. There's Krishna about the challenge on Do Will, but Do Will covering it well, and it's been a crazy start on the first lap, but ISRL Esports nonetheless leads this race from Isaac Kush, Assassin in 3rd, and there's been a problem. Krishna's been spun around.
Yeah, I was just going to say, crucially, I don't think there was any contact that happened to Krishna. I think it was just a little bit too much gas on the exit of turn 12, turn 13, and just spun the car over as it's been known to happen oh so often here around Circuit de Paul Ricard.
Andon, though, is going to be last as he has to make a pit stop. and it's an early pit stop. I didn't see any damage on the front wing, but it looks like he has picked up some as he's going to change his front wing, move on to the hard compound tire. He is going to have to stop again, though. Those hards are not going to make it till the end. We have had another problem. It's been a yellow flag, and it looks like, contact between the Ferrari and the Mercedes of Jamie and Jarno right there. So they're getting a little bit dirty with each other. Hopefully they keep it clean through the rest of the race, but nonetheless, let's move up to the top of the leaderboard. Actually, I was about to move up to the top, but there's a battle right now between the Haas and the Alfa Romeo. It's rotation on the inside into the hairpin, and rotation gets the move done and dusted up into 8th position, now trying to chase down the Haas of Feral Fury. As we move up along the leaderboard right here, Isaac Kush is trying to chase down Shapalelli, who has had a fantastic start from pole position. Covered off Isaac Kush, who moved onto the outside in the turn 1, and Shapalelli controlling the lead of this race right now, about 0.5 of a second faster than Isaac Kush. We'll see if Isaac Kush can get any advantage. A side-by-side battle right now between Carter and Knight, as Knight is ahead of Carter. Knight is in 15th position, but look at this, Carter getting some nice run here. Knight covers him off. A little bit of a move to the inside now as Carter's trying to hang it around the outside, not able to get the traction. He's on the medium tires, whereas Knight is on the hards, so Carter should be able to get ahead of him easily. Now they're having a drag race down the start-finish line. Knight still on the inside. Knight's going to have to brake pretty late. He's going to keep ahead. Coming into turn 1, they're still side by side. Knight gets ahead of Carter, though, and moves back up in the 15th position, and we'll see if this battle continues throughout this first stint for these drivers. As Krishna right there on the soft tire is all the way at the back, and this is probably the worst possible start for Krishna, given that he has to be within the pack for this soft tire strategy to work, but it's not going to, and he's going to have to pit pretty soon for a new set of tires, especially given that he had that spin.
Yeah, because he had the spin near the end of lap 1, and I think he had another moment in turn 1, and once again in the exit of turn 6 of lap 2. So I think after the first spin, just struggling to manage the temperature of those tires, and it's really gone and shown its teeth for Eklund as he's way back the order and really going to have to damage control now for the rest of the race. But it is early, anything can happen, so I do think Krishna is going to want to stick into it. As oh my, rotation went way deep and allowed your own Vasseur to get the overtake done and almost opened the door to Eklund, and that could have ended much worse as rotation came very quickly back on track and almost right into the Renault of Eklund. But thankfully the awareness was there, and no further incident happened with that.
So a little bit of interesting there as Vapor Rotation now is trying to make the challenge back on the Haas driver, who gets ahead even before turn 1. Vapor Rotation back up into 8th position. Nice to see Rotation getting on the Vapor team right there. Definitely a driver who deserves all of it. Extremely fast when he needs to be, and he is getting very fast right now. Back up in the 8th position now, going to chase back down Feral Fury, who has gained, of course, a little bit of time given that mistake from the Alfa Romeo driver, as he goes a little wide again, so maybe those medium tires are already starting to see their effects of degradation. A very high deg track, France here, as look at this, Isaac Kush has caught up a little bit to Shapalelli, now about 0.5 of a second back on the power. We'll see if he can get ahead of him in this first stint, or is he going to keep it nice and cautious, and we'll see if maybe he can jump him in strategy. It's depending on how they both decide to pit. Does one pit on another lap, or they both pit on the same lap? We'll have to wait and see. Eklund has gone ahead of Jerome Vasseur, though, in the Haas. So Jerome Vasseur starting to lose positions here in this race.
Yeah, and Eklund had just such a good run on the exit of the of turn 9, the chicane that separates the two long straights, or the dual chicane as I've been calling it all weekend. But just had such a good run on the exit, and just left your own Vasseur with nowhere to be. And I think that was Krishna once again struggling and having another moment.
Oh, again, he's on those soft tires. Like we said, those soft tires are quite old, especially given the spin. So Krishna is really in the worst possible position right now. Endon has gone ahead of him, though Endon's 28 seconds back. Now we're starting to see some penalties get picked up. Yarno has picked up a 3-second time penalty, and so has Knight picked up 3 seconds of time penalty. Those, of course, are for track extensions and corner cutting. Again, as we said, track limits are, well, they're not great, to say the least here. As I experienced with my, let's just say, plethora of penalties in Division 3, but I did get fastest lap at least, so that was nice to see. I'm sure somebody will beat it, though, and I won't get a graphic for the first time, but we'll wait and see. I'm kind of hoping not. Maybe everybody just has a nice, calm race. There's no weird laps or anything like that, but we'll see. Feral Fury is trying to chase down Do Will, who's sitting in 6th position. Do Will is without the help of DRS, as he is 2.7 seconds back from CRL Ferg, so he's going to have a little bit of trouble on his hands right now as, look at this, rotation is really starting to put the pressure on the Haas driver of Feral Fury. May he find himself in the battle for 6th position? I have to assume he may, as we're seeing a bit of a pace advantage right now for the Alfa Romeo driver, who's sporting a bit of a Kimi-ish helmet. Right there, as you can see, a little bit of that black and red design, and that's those very diagonal lines that are so very apparent with the helmet design for that driver, Kimi Räikkönen, as Feral Fury losing a bit of time on the start-finish line. We're seeing a move by Sophion ahead of Yarno up into 13th position. Yarno down the 14th, and now Knight will try to chase down that Ferrari driver, put himself a little higher than 15th, which is the only place right now left to score points. Carter does not have a penalty. If it stays as it is, though it is very early days in this race, then Carter could move up into the points.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see that moment where the hard tires are really starting to break in a little bit more, and the medium tires are starting to show their
I got to cut you off here as rotation's making a move on Feral Fury, and coming into the chicane, still side by side. Now Eklund might make a move. Ooh, it's getting very, very close, but not able to make that double move. Rotation, though, up into 7th position, had an amazing run. Look at this, side by side, Josh 2 and Jerome Vasseur. Jerome Vasseur losing a bundle of positions side by side through the flat right-hander, but it's Josh 2 who gets ahead of the Haas driver, and Jerome Vasseur is starting to lose a bundle of positions. He may have to make a pit stop a little bit earlier than his fellow compatriots here in this race.
Yep, I think so. It looks as though, at least here with the Division 1 championship, it looks as though the medium tires are really wearing out a lot more than what we're used to seeing. But I mean, don't tell that to Chappellilly and Isaac Kush, who are just pounding out fastest laps, keeping very close to one another here with this with these two-car battle for the lead of the race. But it looks as though with the midfield, we're starting to see now the hard tire drivers getting a bit more of a groove, getting a bit more of that heat in the tires, and this is where we're starting to see these hard tire runners starting to get their overtakes done and starting to work their way up the grid, now that the medium tire runners are starting to feel that initial wear of those tires. And I think they're probably right around the midway point, where normally it's right around lap 12. I would think that we'd see these drivers opting to pit and get off those medium tires for the sake of the hard tires.
Rotation makes the move before the chicane up into 6th position. Rotation is on an absolute roll right now, making position up after position on those medium tires. Now he's got a bit of a problem, though. He's got to make up 3 seconds on Ferg, and he's going to have problems with the drivers behind, who are going to have that DRS advantage their rotation simply doesn't have. And maybe even Do Will can make a counteroffensive against rotation. But right now, rotation sitting in P6. It's been a nice and steady climb through the order so far for rotation in this race, through the first part of the race. Again, we are expecting pit stops to occur very soon, especially for the medium tire runners. Krishna, it says he's on new softs, like, because they're only 2 laps old. Did he double stop on softs?
Yes, so I did see Krishna after having it was at the end of the lap when he had the incident at the dual chicane, as I'm just going to call it now because I don't know the turn number. But after that incident, he did have another moment into turn 11 and opted to go into the pits to put on another set of soft tires. So really committing to the 2-stop here. I think going soft, and that's mediums.
No, I think it might be a 3-stop at that point.
Yeah, I was expecting Krishna to go on the medium tires, go a little bit longer, and then maybe put on another set of medium tires to the end of the race, or of course the hard tires if
He's
those
got to go to
mediums just
hards
didn't
and
last.
if he goes for another,
Yeah.
if he goes for mediums, the race is over. I can't imagine coming back for a 3-stop race when everybody is at bare minimum, or sorry, at maximum is going to do a 2-stop.
no.
Oh, there's been a problem. So and it's Knight who's had
Yep.
problems on track with Sophion. And I'm not too sure what happened, but there might have been some contact. I was seeing possibly an overtake for these two drivers. Phone, did you catch what happened?
I didn't quite catch what happened. Only saw the Knight falling down the order. So I'm really, I'll be honest, I'm not too sure what happened. I saw Knight fall off. I know Sophion's very close, but I did see VR going very deep on the exit of that chicane as well. So potentially caught up between VR, Sophion, and Knight. But I'm trying to look and see if there's any damage
and
for any
Yarno
of these
into the pit
vehicles.
lane. So the first pit stop for the medium tire runners in this race. That's very early, lap number 7. So are we seeing an increased tire deg in this race? Are the track temperatures maybe a little too high? As there's the pit stop, and on the why is he's on the going on to the soft
now committing
tires.
to the 2-stop unless there was a miscommunication with the Ferrari pit wall.
He did have damage, but I'm still a little surprised. Yeah, I don't know if that's the right. I mean, it is a little early, but the drop off is not that bad for the hards. He maybe could have extended it. It's just going to be a very bad end of the race for him. But I'm a little shocked to see him go into the softs. That's going to be another quick stop in about 5 to 6 laps.
Yeah, like I'm not too sure why you opted for the soft tires unless, like you were saying, just bridge to the point of putting on the hard tires with everybody else. But you're basically adding an extra pit stop, and this basically means this 30 seconds you've lost really counts for
there's
nothing.
another problem. Is it Krishna?
So I think that was
it's
Krishna once
again
having a moment. So really not the French Grand Prix that Krishna was hoping for here in Tier 1, as it seems to be as the track seems to really be getting the better of the Renault driver here so far in these early stages of the race.
Now we're going to see a pit stop. Nope, we're not seeing a pit stop yet. We'll see when he does so. I presume he will go onto the hards because that would make sense. That would put him back on the 1-stop. We expect pretty soon, around lap 11, maybe lap 12, for the medium tire runners to start making their pit stops. The tires are going to really start to get into some rather unfavorable territory of tire wear, about 50%, and generally, unless you're a tire god, that those medium tires are going to be around that particular percentage on that particular lap. So I'm expecting that's going to be the case. I don't know for sure. We'll see. Carter has made a... Ooh, no, Jamien's had a spin. That's why. Jamien's had a spin, and now he moves down to 15th place. He's got a bit of a breathing room as Yarno is pretty far ways back. That's put Knight up into 14th position. A bit of breathing room for some points, though, as he's trying to chase down Sophion.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Eklund making a move going side by side with Feral Fury here into turn 10. Feral Fury had to go a little bit off track, but it looks as though Eklund just has the grip and is able to get that move stick. But
Feral Fury makes the move back on the inside, and now Josh 2 is going to make a dive on the inside as Eklund has a problem from the rear contact between the two drivers. As Eklund he was looking to make a move on Feral Fury. Now he's lost 2 positions in a couple. Well, no, he's lost 1 position, but he thought he had 2.
Yep, and that's a tough position to lose as well, as we know the pace Josh 2 has. Not necessarily having the race he was maybe hoping for, at least with qualifying, having crashed out. But still a decent recovery drive so far from Josh 2. Did start on the hard tires, so I think now Josh is starting to get that pace into those tires and looking to go much longer than basically all the drivers ahead of him, all on the medium tires here. And you can see him just poking his nose in on the inside of Feral Fury, just itching to get that move done. And we might see it happen here down this long back straight.
We're going to ride on board with the Williams driver. He puts on the DRS. He's got some ERS to play with. and he is using it, and it's going to be an easy overtake before the chicane for Josh 2 ahead of Feral Fury up into 8th position. Now we'll try to chase down Do Will, who has lost a lot of time to rotation, who's only
Feral
1
Fury.
point.
I was going to say, Feral Fury actually losing out on not 1 but 2 positions, having a moment on the exit of the turn 9 chicane, and that opened the door for Eklund to get that move done once again. But Feral Fury still battling, but I think
Yep, it looks like an advantage
get that
for
move to stick.
Yep, Eklund gets the advantage. Now Jerome Vasseur is looking to try to make a move on his teammate. So back again, the Haas drivers between each other, and now we're seeing our first pit stops at the leaders as Rotation and Passassin have made their pit stops here on lap 12 of this race. So as I said, around lap 12 or lap 11, you'll start to see those tire runners in the mediums make their pit stops. Now, the big question is, when does Chapelelli and Isaac Kush decide to make their pit stops, and everybody else for that matter? Do they react to the drivers, or do they stay out a little bit longer? We'll have to wait and see. As Rotation comes out of the pit lane, he is going to be coming out around, about 12th position right there, as everybody else behind made their pit stops. Krishna still out on those soft tires. That's a bold strategy. 6 laps on those softs that have had a spin. We'll see. I'm assuming he's trying to extend it to go on to the hards till the end and make it back to a 1-stop and maybe gain something in this race if there's a safety car. Not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. But nonetheless, Chapelel, we're going to ride on board with the leader of this race. Does he decide to make his pit stop? If he does, he, of course, will be behind the hard tire runners, but those hard tires are getting old, and while they are in a better operating window than these mediums, they're not going to be in a very good operating window when compared to a new set of hard tires. But we're going to wait and see. He's about to come up to the pit lane. Does he dive into the pits? Yes, he does. So does Isaac Kush into the pit lane. Total P's, will he follow in? Yes, he does. There goes Ferg. Do Will is coming up. Does he stay out? He does actually stay out on the medium tire. So interesting call there, as we're going to see if that works out for him as Eklund moves into the pit lane, and again onto the hard tires as we expect for all these drivers, and they will go toward the end of this race unless, of course, there is a problem.
Yep, I think Duwil maybe feeling a little bit less tire wear than the other drivers, opting to stay out for 1 extra lap, I would say. As I did see, at least when I rode on board with Duwil, the pit stop strategy from AWS did predict a lap 13 pit stop for Duwil. But we'll have to see if this overcut's going to work, as both he and Jeroen Vasseur opted to stay out another lap on those medium tires. But Chapelelli already out of the pits and already in 5th, ahead of Knight, and very close to Sophion. And you can see making quick work of the AlphaTauri driver there to go up into 4th.
So
now,
it is. Sorry, if you.
No, go on ahead.
No, I don't know. I no, go ahead. I don't know.
Okay, I was just gonna say. No worries, but I was just going to say, with Isaac Kush coming out behind the Red Bull of Night and the AlphaTauri of Sophion, Isaac Kush thankfully making quick work of the Red Bull of Night. And I'll be honest, I don't think Sophion is going to put too much of a battle on his teammate, knowing that that's not his race to win, and he'd be hindering Isaac Kush if he didn't let him by in trying to catch up to Chapelelli, who did make that quick work. And we are seeing Duwil and Jeroen Vasseur taking their pit stops here on lap 13 as expected.
That's put Josh 2 into the lead of this race. So Josh 2 moving into the lead as we expected him to do so. Now the big question is, can he get a good advantage? Can he put himself in position where when he makes his pit stop, which will most likely be onto a set of medium tires, though possibly he's going to try to extend to the softs. He's on lap 13 right now. The hards, they last a little bit longer in terms of performance, but not in terms of overall life, as the mediums. Oh, there's a problem, and it's been it's a retirement for Yarno, and Yarno it looks like he's retiring the pit lane, so not a crash, thankfully, as Krishna is still on the softs on lap 8. So I want to imagine those tires are kind of screaming at him right now to make a pit stop. but we'll see when he does so. But Yarno is out of the race. He's decided to retire. That's one driver down. It's one driver down and making it easier for anybody else to try to score some points. So we have now just 17.
Yep, down to 17 drivers now. Rotation on his set of hard tires, going side by side with Total P's, trying to get that overtake done and put a little bit of a nail into the basically the slipstream teamwork that we've been seeing the McLaren team do the entirety of the race.
Still side by side. Oop, contact on the side pod between Total P's and Rotation, so getting a little close to each other. Maybe a little too close for comfort if you're Total P's. Big lockup from Passassin. Is that going to allow Rotation to make up an advantage on the McLaren driver? He's got some slipstream. He's going to have some DRS. He's not using any of his ERS, maybe waiting for the straight. Total P's, he's going to have to get back up ahead of Rotation to keep up that McLaren slipstream fest, because Rotation's looking to put a damper on that, move himself back up into 6th position. Oh, big lockup from Rotation. He's gone very deep into the corner. That's allowed Total P's to make up some advantage. Passassin has now gained an advantage on Rotation. We'll see if that helps him out. Carter has retired from the session. He's out of this race. He's decided to retire in the pit lane. Carter was not happy with this race. We're now down to just 16 drivers, so only one driver left to retire, and if you're in the points, you're good to go. As it looks like just Carter just was not happy with that race. It was a difficult one.
Yeah, so Carter, on the first set of pit stops, did put the soft tires on, which I was questioning a little bit, that decision. But it's another victim of the exit of turn 12, as I think put too much gas, went into the wall, took some wing damage, and I think that was just enough for Carter to take an early retirement and get an early start on next week's preparation.
As it's been the case for a few drivers here at Paul Ricard, a track where I think a lot of drivers expect to be quick, but this track can catch you off guard, and unfortunately for some, it's caught a lot of drivers off guard. Josh 2 has finally made his pit stop off onto the hards. He will move on to the medium compound tire till the end of the race. That's put Efrael Chapelelli back into the lead of the race, about 2 seconds ahead of Isaac Kush. So Fion is in P3 at the moment. He still has to make a pit stop, so does Knight, who sits in P4. Assassin in 5th position, about to move up into 4th after pit stops, or even possibly 3rd. Rotation, it's been a fantastic race for him, as he's going to move up into possibly 4th position in this race.
Yeah, but I don't think for Rotation, I don't think he's going to be happy with just 4th in the race after the pit stops are all said and done. I think he wants to get that move on Passassin, wants to get that top 3. Of course, we know he wants to be battling with Isaac Kush, and he wants to be battling with his teammate to prove who is really the #1 driver in the Alfa Romeo racing team. But still, I gotta give him credit from a qualifying ban to basically starting last on the grid to be up into a provisional podium as of now. That is a solid drive in itself. But of course, we do have 11 laps to go, so loads of time for things to happen. And as this circuit has shown, anything can happen here at Circuit de Paul Ricard, as this race and the other races have shown.
As Passassin is trying to find a way past Knight, who finally dives into the pit lane. So Passassin now got held up a little bit. That's allowed Rotation to keep up with Passassin, and now it's showtime. Passassin does have DRS, though, as it was near the very end of the lap there, but he does not have anybody ahead of him, so that's not nearly as much of an advantage as it is for Rotation. As it's going to be interesting here. Where does Knight come out? Does he come out in the points still? I believe he will, as Andon is still rounding the penultimate turn right there. So Chapelelli in the lead. Isaac Kush in 2nd. So Fion is in 3rd now after the pit stop from Knight. Passassin in 4th position. Well, actually, sorry. So Fion's still in 3rd. So I don't know why I've said Knight there, because it didn't really matter. Assassin has moved up to 4th, though. Rotation is in 5th. And now Passassin has caught up to Sophion and has now Slipstream on him. Ooh, Sophian's holding up Assassin a little bit. He has to make this move. I'm not sure if Sophian's going to be all that nice about it. Well, actually, he is very nice about it. So, no drama there as Sophian knows it's not his battle to race. But his rotation going to get caught up now in it as, Assassin didn't make the move on Sophian. That's incredible. He actually got out of the way to let by the McLaren driver, and he didn't make the move. So Assassin, I'm surprised, was not able to get the overtake. I mean, you saw Sophian; he moved all the way to the other side of the track.
Yeah, it almost looked. I was gonna agree with you that it was a nice little generous move from Sophian trying to let Assassin through, but it looked to be a bit more of Sophian defending the inside line. I guess you could say by the end of it. But I think now Assassin, I don't think you have to tell him twice.
I think Sophian's having a bit of a battle right now with the McLaren driver. They were going side by side, and now the move has been made. Now rotation needs to get past Sophian, and he's going to move to the inside line. He's going to make a very big dive on Sophian and gets the move just about. Sophian's still there. Now he gets the move, and oh my goodness, this is getting rather close as Sophian is really starting to lose a bundle of positions. Now, I believe Sophian wants to do a soft run till the end of this race, given why he's still out there, because the softs are going to definitely make it if he just stays out a little bit longer in this race. Total Peas is making an inside move, and he bangs wheels with the McLaren driver, still side by side of him, and now Total Peas gets ahead of Sophian. But here comes Cyril Ferg, who has now made the move on Sophian, and Sophian's lost a lot of positions. I think he's just going to have to eat the bullet and make a pit stop because he's starting to lose a lot of time to the other drivers with much newer tires. Josh 2 is next up to roll, and he's on the mediums, and he's on 2-lap bold mediums, much quicker than Sophian's tires.
Oh yeah, and you can see that gap between Josh 2 and Sophian just closing up. It was up to 4 seconds, already down to 3.
And there's pit stop.
3.5. Yep. But I do think it was maybe a lap too late for Sophian. I do see what he was trying to do, but maybe the safer option of putting on those medium tires would have been potentially the better strategy for him. But of course, it is easy to play hindsight after the fact.
Now the question is, what tire does Sophian go on to? And he is going to do the softs. So it is the soft tire. I think it's a little late. I think it's a little early for the soft tires. I think if he had stayed out maybe another lap and then pitted, but again, he lost all those positions. I don't think he was expecting that. But we'll see if those last. But I think towards the end of the race, those are going to start to really complain on him. We'll see if it works out for him. So rotation is in 4th. He's got DRS, he's got ERS, he's catching up a lot to Assassin. He's not going to make a move into the chicane, though. A little bit too far back. But we'll see if he can get the run now coming towards turn number 10. There's no ERS, but he does have DRS. And look at this, a big run for rotation now. He's going to move to the inside. Assassin's covering it well. On the inside is rotation, side by side of Assassin. Assassin has the outside line. Rotation has the inside line. A switchback for rotation right there. He's still there, Assassin, and now Assassin back ahead. Still side by side between the two drivers. Rotation with the better exit. Now rotation on the inside. Makes the move up into the podium. Can Assassin make a counterattack? No, he can't. Not on this lap. Will he move for another lap? And we'll see if he can get ahead of rotation. It was a nice side-by-side battle. Rotation is the man who finds himself ahead up into the podium positions here on lap 20 of 27.
Yeah, and that was a nice little bit of driving from both Rotation and Assassin, both very skilled, and you can see the respect they had on one another, leaving each other space. Now, I do want to say, through the into turn 11, I believe it is, after that swooping turn 10, it almost looked as though Assassin tried to hit the brakes a little bit early to try that switchback move, but Rotation just did such a good job of closing it off that Assassin was just forced to keep the lane he was in, but it was a good job from Rotation to get that move done, move up into the podium. but now really has his work cut out for him with 7 laps to go if he wants any chance of that P2, having to close up 8.5 seconds to Izat Kush. Who, to be honest, is kind of driving his own race right now, 3 seconds behind Chapelelli, who's in, at least as of now, pretty decent control of the lead of the race.
Yeah, it's been a pretty easy drive for Chapelelli. Really hasn't had to contend with anything in this race. Even after the pit stops, he didn't really make too many overtakes. Everybody kind of just fell into line and made their pit stops when they had to. Now, the only driver really to watch out for is Josh 2.9 seconds back from Ferg on those new medium tires. He's going to go till the end of this race. We'll see if those medium tires really do start to work out for him well enough. I don't know if they will. Now Izat Kush even puts more. This is interesting now. Izat Kush, though, he's picked up a 3-second time penalty there. That's definitely taken him out of the winnings for this race, unless Chapelelli picks up a penalty of his own right. But Vapor Rotation does not have a penalty on his belt, so if he can gain a little bit of time on Izat Kush, Vapor Rotation could make this a 1-2 for Alfa Romeo, which we've seen a possibility a few times in this season, has just not been able to come into fruition.
Yeah, but so it definitely does make things interesting. As you said, brings that gap down to 5.4 seconds realistically. Now, I'm just keeping an eye out a little bit further down the grid of Sophion, who's on those soft tires, and making, through the last few corners, had done quite a few lunges on the Red Bull of ISRL Knight, but Knight doing a good job defending his P12. Sophion getting oh so close, but just Knight outbraking the AlphaTauri, even with those 4-lap-old medium tires being a little bit more worn. So Sophion still stuck with that Red Bull ahead of him, as I'm sure he's really hoping to get that move done sooner rather than later, before those soft tires really start falling off a cliff within, I think, between now and the next 3 laps, I would say.
Yeah, he definitely does have to get ahead of Knight, and it's a little bit of gamemanship between the Red Bull drivers. Of course, AlphaTauri and Red Bull right there. So we'll see if he can get ahead of him sooner rather than later. But it's getting a little close. He looks on the inside, but Knight covers it off. Knight wasn't entitled to give him any room right there. They weren't side by side, but Knight is making it difficult for Sophion. A lock up there from Knight, though, and here we go, back on the power. This should be the overtake that Sophion is looking for, getting ahead of Knight, and yes, he does so, and I'm riding on board of Andon. I gotta see lap data here. I don't know who has the fastest lap right now. It might even be...
I think it is, it was Sophion, crucially, that not the lap that just finished, but the lap beforehand did actually set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, from what I was able to see on my little timing board notifications here.
But it is definitely Andon who's got fastest lap, and my graphic hopes go in the drain. But Andon nonetheless has gotten the fastest lap of the session, and sitting in P15, he will pick up that extra point. But Andon picking up as many points as he can. No teammate here for the racing points, so it's just Andon alone in that pink car. As a running back on board of rotation, he hasn't really picked up much time yet on Izat Kush. Izat Kush should have to pick up at least another penalty to make this a real scare for second position in that race. Passassin is, though, still in DRS range of rotation. So as we head towards the end of this race, are we going to see a battle for the final podium position here in this race? Rotation would love to be on the podium. Surely that would give him driver of the week, in my opinion, given or driver of the day, really. Maybe driver of the week, given we still have Division 4 as well. But Vapor Rotation has put in a major amount of pace in this race, and I believe he's going to keep it ahead of Passassin. We'll see, unless, of course, there's a mistake. Can Passassin hunt down P3 in this race? Could Total P's maybe make a move, though, as he's still keeping up with the two?
Yeah, and I think, for Total P's, he's got his teammate ahead of him, so I don't think you're going to want to battle too much with your teammates, so that might be a little a nice little cushion for at least as far as Passassin's concerned. But between Rotation and Passassin, they're both very similar on their ERS. They're both managing it, well, maybe not oh so great. They're near the bottom, with no ERS left. So it's a bit of more just who has better pace on the hard tires. A similar type of wear for the tires. I would say both 11 laps old. So it's really, like I said, who's got more pace between Rotation and Passassin here in the final, I guess the final 3 laps, if I'm counting right, as already we're near the end of this race that seems to have,
it's just been flying by. No safety cars, nothing. It's nice. It's nice to have just a nice fly-by race. But Passassin is really starting to gain on Rotation now, as Rotation has lost an oodle amount of time in the last lap. So we'll see if Passassin can get ahead of Rotation before the end of this race and put himself on the podium. No penalties for the 2 drivers there in 4th and 3rd, so it's right down to pace. Here comes Passassin. He's got the DRS on Rotation. Not a move into the chicane, though, for Passassin, and we'll see if he can make a move into turn 10 possibly. He's getting very, very close to Rotation. He doesn't have a lot of ERS to play with, but neither does Rotation, so they're both in about the same boat. So it's going to be right down the pace who picks up the final podium position here. Total P's, as you said, the teammate there, also has a 3-second time penalty, so he's not going to really want to hurt Passassin's chances too much of getting that 3rd place, I believe.
Oh no, but realistically, maybe hoping, at least for Total P's with that 3-second penalty, maybe hoping just sticking behind Passassin in that DRS train, just to have his teammate tow him around the track, give him that slipstream, give him the DRS, so he can try to grow that gap to Cyril Ferg, who's in 6th, but only a 1.5 seconds behind. But crucially, out of DRS range is Ferg from Total P's. So maybe trying to work together to try to build another 1.5 seconds, so that way that 3-second penalty for Total P's becomes basically null and void, where it just doesn't matter at the end of the timing table. But they're starting to run out of time for that, if that is the strategy, as Josh 2 just took a 3-second time penalty.
So Josh 2 picks up 2 seconds of time penalties. That's going to hurt his chances of getting up into 6th. Ferg is still penalty-less. That's not a word, but we just made it up. Here we go. Chapelelli, we're on lap 25 of 27, so final 3 laps of this race. It's 3.2 seconds, that gap, and it's going to be more given the penalty that Isaac Kush has acquired in this race. Vapor Rotation has not been able to make up the advantage and possibly make it into range for 2nd.
I don't mean to cut you off, but a little bit further down the order, Jeroen Vasseur had a nice run with DRS onto Do Will to try to make a move for 9th, but unfortunately into that chicane, Jeroen Vasseur clipped the front of his tire to the rear tire of Do Will, and funny enough, in the what I've been calling the Do Will chicane, Jeroen Vasseur takes a spin and falls a little bit down the order and loses a position to his teammate Feral Fury, who continues on in 10th.
So unfortunate for Jeroen, he was having a good race. He's dropped down a few positions, still very much in the points, so he'll be happy to score what he can. Let's ride back on board of Passassin, who continues to put the pressure on Rotation. This is the penultimate lap of the race for the drivers here in the top 10 at least, as the other drivers are getting close to moving up into that penultimate lap. And Passassin is right on the back of Rotation. Now, who has more DRS? It looks like, ERS. They both have about the same, but Passassin will have DRS. And here we go, on to the back straight. Got the DRS. Is he using any ERS? He's using as much of it as he can. It's going to get very close. Is he going to make a move into the chicane? He moves to the inside, into the chicane. A dive from Passassin. Still side by side of Rotation. Rotation gets back on the power nice and early, and he's got ahead of Passassin for the moment. Coming towards turn number 10, Total P's is having to maybe reserve it a little bit, as he doesn't want to get too involved with his teammate, but he is getting a bit of a run right now on the McLaren driver. So possibly a bit of a confusing battle right now, as Total P's is right there behind Passassin. but rotation at the moment stays ahead. Meanwhile, Chapelelli will start his final lap of the French Grand Prix, in which he has led almost every single lap of. It's been an absolute masterclass performance. 2.7 seconds is the gap, but he's got a penalty, Isaac Kush, so it looks like Chapelelli, all things considered, is going to stay ahead and win this race. Rotation, though, starts the final lap. The McLaren's beating down his back. It's going to be interesting coming towards the back straight. Can rotation stay ahead? He's got a bit of DRS, it's not DRS, it's ERS to play with. He's got about, it looks like about 20% right there. Passassin, he has a little bit to play with as well. Is it enough, though? Rotation back on the power, using the curb a little bit to gain some momentum. And it looks like Passassin has not had the best run as he could have had. Rotation moves to the inside line right there, moving back to the outside. He's broken up the slipstream. I think this has allowed Rotation to get just enough momentum to stay ahead of Passassin on the final lap here in this race. Vapor Rotation, still in third position, coming up towards turn number 10, the final place really for any run, and it's not going to happen. Rotation is still right there. We're going to ride on board of Chapelelli, though, as he's coming towards the final couple of turns here in this French Grand Prix. So Fion has set the fastest lap of the race, near the end of it with a 129.7, so picked up that graphic near the end there ahead of Andon. Andon has picked up a 3-second time penalty. Nonetheless, Chapelelli has come around the final turn, and he is going to win the French Grand Prix of masterclass performance. He picks up all the points that he can. Isaac Kush finishing in second. Vapor Rotation stays ahead of Passassin, and he is going to pick up a podium after that qualifying ban put him near the bottom of the track. A fantastic drive from him. Passassin in fourth. Fur picks up a position on total Ps and moves into the top 5. And look how close Josh 2 was to the back of the Ferrari right there, but he just couldn't make it happen with that penalty. He finishes in 7th, Duo in 8th, 9th for Eklund, and into the top 10 is Feral Fury Jerome Vasseur finishing in 11th, 12th for Knight with some penalties, Jamian is going to come across the line in just a moment's time. I think with some penalties, he may pick up 13th position in 12th position in this race. No, he does not. Sorry. It is Knight who finishes in 12th. Andon will finish in 14th position, and the final points position will come to Sophion in this race. But nonetheless, Chapelelli, he wins the Grand Prix. Isaac Kush in second. Vapor Rotation with a masterclass drive has found himself on the podium after a qualifying ban.
Yeah, what a race that was. Honestly, it was crazy to see. And just the drive that Rotation had put on, like you said, after the qualifying ban. You saw on your screen driver of the day there, or at least on my screen it was, and definitely well deserved. And I definitely think my candidate for ISRL's driver of the week after that really strong performance, showing that a qualifying ban really won't hinder him all that much to still get a strong position. But I do want to say as well, Chapelelli, not really much to talk about. Had a dominant qualifying, dominant race all throughout, and really went untouched. But it just shows the pure pace that the other Alfa Romeo driver has. And I mean, even Isaac Kush took that 3-second time penalty. We were worried that with the pace Rotation had, maybe it would have been a little bit more interesting, but Isaac Kush had that time penalty, and honestly just made him put it into overdrive and grow that gap that much more on Rotation to solidify that P2.
So I gotta go through this quick. Chappelle in first, second in Isaac Kush, Rotation in third, fourth for Passassin, fifth for Ferg, sixth for Total Peace, Josh 2 in seventh, eighth for Duo, ninth for Eklund, 10th for Feral Fury, Jerome Vasseur in 11th, oh thank goodness, Knight in 12th, 13th for Jamian, Andon in 14th, 15th for Sophion, Krishna in 16th, 17th for Carter, and Yarno in 18th position. It was Krishna and Carter and Yarno who did not finish the race. I didn't want to be mean, but you kept talking. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to make through all the names here if this thing counts down all the way.
Apologies for that.
but nonetheless, Chapelelli wins the race, and it's time for some podium interviews. Let's leave the session. Let's get into the showroom. You'll invite the drivers. I have a feeling it's going to be a bit of a boring one for the top two. Rotation has a little bit more to talk about, but it was a pretty non-eventful race for all of those guys. Well, Schiaparelli is into the room first. Of course, he won the race, so we will get underway with the interview for him first, but I have to imagine he doesn't have too much to talk about, considering he led pretty much every single lap, and there wasn't a lot of overtaking after the pit stop.
Yeah, kind of like that. But, Izzat still kept me going, so I guess I just watched out for no penalties, and yeah.
Yeah, after he picked up the penalty, it was pretty much over, unfortunately for him. But again, you pretty much led every race. You got pole position. It was a pretty easy session, it seemed like, from the comms booth. But I appreciate you not saying, well, yeah, it was kind of boring, whatever, which a lot of people end up doing. Isaac Kush is just joined the lobby here, and I'm assuming, I expect what I'm going to hear from Isaac Kush. How was the race, Isaac?
The race was fine. It was great. I mean, during the first stint, I thought I had pace to keep up with Schiaparelli, but in the second stint, he kind of proved me wrong. So it's kind of boring race, I guess.
There it was. There it was. Boring race. I knew he was going to say that. Boring race.
I mean, there's nothing else about it. It's just I was too slow for Schiaparelli, and I'm too fast for the guys behind me, I guess.
Oh, well, actually, let's hear that from Rotation, who finishes in third place after having a qualifying ban. The big bait question: are you too slow for Isaac Kush?
Absolutely
Yes.
not. He's trash.
Oh, there we go. There we go. There's we just got Knight. Pick that up. That's the quote. That's the quote graphic.
I think gloves are coming off here, but I mean, that was a solid race Rotation from the back of the grid up to a podium. Were you expecting that kind of finish after the qualifying ban?
In all honesty, yes, I was. Well, considering Josh and others in Austria had a qualifying ban and finished in the top 5, so I thought if they could do it, why can't I? So.
Well, there we go. Strong words from Rotation. I'm sure we'll hear that quote. Oh, we won't hear it, but we'll see it, that quote, in the graphic at some point. A little bit of war of words in the interview room. There's your top 3, Schiaparelli, Isaac Kush, and Vapor Rotation. And we will end it here, as that was the French Grand Prix, round number 4 of the Division 1 Championship here in ISRL Esports. My name is ISRL X. I was joined by Fallen Monkeys in the commentary booth. If you've enjoyed the race, make sure to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss any live action from our channel. And thank you to all of our partners here, IMB Racewear, Jackson Protection Agency, and IFEA. Thank you so much for your continued support, and thank you to all of our subscribers and viewers who continue to tune in every week and watch all the racing that goes on throughout Sunday. Thank you so much, and join us next week for the race. And what's the next race, Fallen?
I'll be honest, I actually have no idea what the next race is.
You were supposed to pick up for me. I did not look at the calendar, and I was like, he's going to know what the race is, and he didn't know anything. So anyway,
oversight from the comms booth. Apologies, everyone watching at home, but just tune in next week, and we'll find out together then.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race nonetheless. Thank you. What is it?
Italy, I believe.
It's Italy.
No?
No?
Australia.
No, it's I don't know. Whatever.
It's Australian.
It's Belgium. It's Belgium.
It's Belgium. No, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
No, it's not. We're gonna end it. This is a disaster. Thank you so much for joining us, and have yourselves a great night.
Hey, yo, shout out to my boys.
No, you didn't